forth between wanting to grow it out and wanting not to grow it out.
So start to sit comfortably.
I'm going Wednesday if she's cutting it back.
However that would be for you, sitting, either cross-legged if you're on the floor, whatever feels good.
Did you see her tonight?
I told you Monday, it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow morning, everybody.
Okay.
And, I think I figured out what to do. I get the,
Okay.
all cushion, anything.
So we're here. There will be one person coming in a little bit late. She's gonna go right over there, so she'll be quiet if she can be. So sit comfortably. I'm gonna take this off now, I think. Everybody comfortable with me not having this on?
Don't
Yes.
breathe on me.
When I walk around, I'm gonna put it back on again.
I'm thinking seriously about it myself.
Yeah, I'm wearing in stores and everywhere else, and here, I don't know, it might be good. Who knows? Do any of us know anything? No. So let yourself be comfortable. You know that you're welcome to sit up on blankets if you want to, cross-legged if you're on the floor, or stretch your legs out. Yeah, and feel free to turn those on. I tried to get it cooled down in here, but it is hot outside, isn't it? So close your eyes and let yourself lengthen up through the top of your head. Just feeling that ease of the breath coming in and going out through your nose. And don't force your breath, just accept your breaths in and out. Just imagine you're breathing equally in and out through both sides of your nose. Accept your breaths a little deeper. If you can come inhaling into your belly and then your ribs and then a little higher up into your chest even. Start to move a bit with our breath. So if you're in your chair, you might want to come a little bit forward. We're going to start to circle, letting our torsos just come into these easy little circles as we exhale our way forward. Inhale as we come back. Keep circling in the same direction. And you can get bigger and bigger. If it feels really good to get bigger with your circles, do. If it feels better to stay really small, do. And we are going to stop and go the other direction. So when you're ready, you just stop, and again, you can start small and stay small. You can let your circles get bigger and bigger. Good. And the next time that you come forward, whether it's a little bit or a little bit more, let yourself stay there. So you can put your hands on the floor if you feel comfortable to do that. If you're in your chair, you're welcome to widen your feet out, bring your hands down closer towards the ground, or leave your elbows above your knees. And as you come into your forward bend, sitting on the floor, just think of coming forward from your low back. But if it feels good to walk your hands on out and kind of fold over, go right ahead. Let your neck release. Good. One more breath. And then you're going to slowly come on back up and let yourself release. Hands on out beside you here now. Get comfortable in the way you're sitting. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands right down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse. Inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now let your shoulders make little circles. And try not to make them tense feeling circles, right? Circling in one direction, doesn't matter which way, because we're going to reverse and go the other. So just let yourself easily feel your shoulders circling. And we're going to stop, and we're going to reverse the direction with those shoulder circles. Just feel like you're waking up your shoulders a little bit here. Good, and then stop. Once the shoulders get down again, take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist to our right. And I'm going to go ahead and mirror you today. So let yourself come around into that right twist. Lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel your feet on the floor. Whether it's the bottoms of your feet or the outside edges of your feet or your heels, press down gently into your feet. One more inhale. And on the exhale, come on back around through center and all the way into the other direction. Letting yourself, again, feel the feet on the floor as you lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel your shoulders nice and wide and open. One more inhale. And then let your exhale draw you back on around into center again. And let's remember which leg you have in front if you're cross-legged on the floor. Let's stretch our legs out for a second and then let our feet circle around. And you can go the same direction if that feels better to you, or you can go opposite, whichever feels good. And you can reverse and go the other way. And then reverse again, so you switch again, other direction. And then either one really. Either one. I put those blocks out for you. Circle again. And then we'll come on down. And if you were cross-legged on the floor, switch the cross of your leg so that you bring your other leg in front. And we'll release our arms again on out beside us. And let's inhale just our right arm all the way out and up overhead. And let yourself for a second turn your palm up towards the ceiling and press up gently into the heel of your hand. So you already feel space through that right side of the body. And then gently release over into your side stretch. So you're still pressing up, and your hand is turned that way where you really feel, all the way up through your arm, that side stretch. Breathing into that side. So one more breath. And then we'll release to come up. We're going to lower that arm down, and we'll inhale our left arm all the way out and up. Again, turn your palm up. Your fingertips kind of face the midline. Bend your elbow at first, because then you can really feel when you press upward into the heel of your hand. And when you go into your side stretch, you're continuing to press up as you reach over a little bit to the side. And then there's all that space. Good. One more breath here. And then we'll rise on back up, lower our arms on down, and let's inhale our arms straight out from our shoulders. And now turn your palms up. Let your elbows soften down. And then bend your elbows and let your fingertips come to touch the tops of your shoulders. And now we're going to circle our elbows a little bit. Doesn't matter which direction. Again, we're going to reverse in a second. So whichever one feels really good. You can get bigger and bigger if you want. That really depends on you. And we're going to stop and go the other way. So again, you can be really small with these elbow circles. Or you may decide, it feels really good to get bigger and bigger. Just depends on your shoulders. Good. And then we'll release elbows down, unfold our arms on down beside us, and let's inhale here. And we're going to twist again towards the right. Let yourself come on around into your twist. Feel the feet in the floor again. Feel length in the back of your neck and your throat, right? So try not to drop your chin down or lift your chin up, right? So one more inhale. And on the exhale, come on back around through center, and we'll go into the other direction. Waking up the spine here and really feeling your sitting bones drawing down to the floor. And one more inhale. And let your exhale again bring you on back into center. Good. Shake everything out a little bit. We're going to come around towards our hands and knees. If you don't want to be on your knees, do not be. So let your hands, if you need to adjust for your wrist, do what feels good. You may want to hold on to the edge of the seat of your chair. You might want to go onto your fists. right? Or you may feel fine to go flat on your hands. And use a blanket if you need, underneath your knees or underneath your hands. Sometimes that helps the wrist too, having support underneath. And then just take your time. Just let your spine start to find those nice, easy little movements so that as you draw into your cat pose, you feel the tailbone drop down, you round up into your back, and let your head hang. When you inhale, you send your tailbone back and up, and feel how the belly melts down and the chest. You can stay looking down. If your neck bothers you, you don't need to add that looking forward in your cow. So moving at your own pace. And of course, if you feel like any sort of achiness anywhere and you need to change a little bit, like how your hands are, or you feel anything at all, you can always kind of adjust yourself. Good. And let's finish off the one that we're either on or moving into now, whether it's cat or cow. And we'll come back to a longer, more neutral spine. Look down between your hands. And we'll bring our left foot forward now. Step our right foot back and come into a lunge. So as you make your way into your lunge, you want to get really mindful of having your feet like you're on very narrow railroad tracks and reaching back through that right inner heel. So you have all that length now in the back of the right leg, but also really through the entire body. If you can imagine, you've got this long line. Even if your hips are up, it's fine. Just really think about, enjoy feeling the length of the body. We're going to switch legs. So again, however far back you want to step that foot, but remember you do want that little sense of space the wide way between your feet. And if you need to look at your left foot to make sure you're not sinking that heel inward, then do, so that you really feel the most in your lunge here. With the feet in the floor. Good. One more breath. And we're going to switch legs again. So again, once you get into that lunge, some of you may decide you want to bring your left hand up, or maybe even both hands up, right? That's totally up to you. You can put your forearm, if you'd rather, on your thigh. Give yourself support that way. And we're going to switch one more time. So again, once you get into that lunge, whether you bring the hand or the forearm to your thigh, let yourself enjoy finding that sense again of length through the body, releasing through the back of that left leg. Good. We'll bring our hands down. If they were up, we're going to step forward and come into standing forward bend. So take your time. Let yourself use whatever kind of support you need, hands on blocks or the chair, or bringing yourself down to your forearms, or, you can always put your elbows above your knees. That's a great support for your low back. And see if you can imagine just really letting yourself release your face. And if you can let your head hang, do. As long as it doesn't bother your back. See if you can let the weight of the head be there. And start to enjoy watching your breath here now. In and out through your nose. Good, and one more breath. We're going to let our hands come on up to our hips and bend our knees and rise up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. So finding your mountain pose, shift around if you need to. Just really let yourself get comfortable. You can even look at your feet, that. Get that distance between your feet where you feel really mindfully balanced between your right and your left foot. And then bring your arms on out beside you. And imagine you have balloons in your armpits, really. Little balloons. And they're going to blow up just a little bit. So the arms just gently float a tiny little bit away from you. And then see if you can rotate your palms forward and spread your fingers out a little bit from there. And find that more openness now across your chest. So it's really hard to stand rounded shoulders here when you give that little space in your armpits and then rotate the hands, right? And let's inhale the arms up into a wide V, mountain with arms overhead. Let your pinkies turn towards each other. Feel your feet equal in the floor. Now just make sure you're not tucking your tailbone forward. Feel your tailbone reaching down towards between your heels. And if it feels good to you to look up a little bit, you can bring your gaze up, take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees and fold from your hips forward into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a nice long flat back. Doesn't matter where you put your hands. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into lunge. So draw your shoulders down. Feel your feet in the floor here now. Zip up your low belly. Inhale. And exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So your choice, whether your hands are on blocks or on your chair or on the floor, that will really change how your shoulders feel. So you got to find what works for you. So bend your knees if you can. Let your elbows softly hug towards each other. And then walk your dog a little bit. So straighten one knee at a time. Let yourself walk a little. Good. And on the next inhale, we're going to come out towards a plank. So be mindful. You don't have to go all the way into a full push-up pose. You can put your knees down and do a half. You can, if you want, go to forearms instead of being on your hands. You can bend your elbows if you like and let the elbows come in towards the ribs, doing little push-ups if you choose. And then we'll come on back towards that down dog. So if you need to adjust your feet as you come from down dog to plank and back again, feel free to do that. And we'll bring our right foot forward now to come into lunge. So if you're on the floor and you need to put your knee or your left knee down or both knees down, do them. And then we'll come on into our standing forward bend. So be mindful here, take your time. Use whatever support feels good for you so that you feel okay in your back. And think about your sitting bones being over your heels so that you're not shifting your weight back behind you with your hips, right? And then you can really let the backs of the legs just naturally open up in your standing forward bend, just from being forward here. And we're going to let our hands from here rise on up to our hips, bend our knees, come on up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's unfold our arms and bring our hands behind us. Interlace your fingers, but let your palms be apart, okay? And then when you inhale, let your hands, if you can, come a little bit away from you. So you feel, your arms are engaged, but you feel a little more open across your chest. And then let the hands come on back to touch. So inhale, if you can let the hands come away a little bit, do. If not, don't worry about it. And exhale, let them come back. And then one more time. Inhale, if you can let the hands, even if it's just an inch, come a little away from you, do. And then let the arms release back. Hands are touching again. Inhale here. And now as you exhale, bend your knees, come forward. Now you may want to go parallel to the floor or you may want to stay higher, right? But think about reaching back through your tailbone, out through the top of your head. If you want to keep going and fold over your legs, by all means do. Some of you will and some of you won't. And if your arms can come away from your back there, you can let your arms come off your back there. One more breath. And then release your arms on down. Let your next inhale help you find that nice, long, flat back. And we'll step our left foot back this time to come into lunge, coming into that second sun salutation. Inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So again, your dog, totally up to you. If your hands are on the blocks, you may walk back, have your heels on the floor, be able to let your heart melt down. You may want to be lower on your blocks or higher. You may want to use your chair, or you might want to have your hands on the floor and be like an upside down V. We're going to come on out towards that plank again. Again, this is totally optional what you do, whether you come to your forearms, put your knees down and do a half plank, whether you do little push-ups, bending your elbows or not, totally up to you. Feel that core strength though. Think about your sitting bones reaching down towards your heels or your knees if you're in half plank. One more breath. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. Elbows hugging inward, remember, that helps you find that kind of hollowing sensation in your armpits, really. And then we'll bring our left foot forward. So again, how you get into that lunge, both knees down or bringing the right knee down to step forward. Good, and then we'll come all the way back into standing forward bend, feet hips distance apart and parallel as you can be. And then be mindful, I know some of you really like to let your hands just drift up to your elbows. If that feels good, go for it. You know, that is just not for everybody's back. You do what feels good for you. Let yourself feel those nice, easy breaths now. Go back to just watching your breath. Just feel like the most important thing in the world right now is watching your breath coming in and going out. Let your face relax. Let your jaw go. And as we bring our hands back up to our hips, we'll bend our knees and rise back up. Inhaling our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, letting our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's come into a little chair pose. You don't have to go low. You can if you want, go lower. But shift your hips back. So the whole pelvis, like your tailbone reaches back now on a diagonal line. So do your sitting bones. So your pelvis is kind of tilted forward here. You can bring your hands to your heart. You can shift a little more to your heels. Go lower if you choose to. You'll feel your thighs and your hips. One more breath. And then press equally into your feet. Come on back up. We're going to inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms like wings. Fold again from the hips as you come into forward bend. And let your next inhale help you find that nice tabletop flat back. And from here, we're going to walk into a downward facing dog pose. So you choose where you want your hands. Let yourself, again, choose the height of your blocks if you're using those under your hands. Just be careful. You know, they can be tippy if they're up high. And on the next inhale, we'll come on out to that plank again. And again, you can come into a back bend or not here, or you can put your knees down and do a little forearm plank. Move how you want. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. Walk a little bit if you want. Let yourself, again, be mindful, feeling that sense of reaching back through your tailbone. And then we'll do that same thing again. Come on out towards that plank. Again, it is optional. If you want to do a back bend, you can come down and do a sphinx or a cobra. You don't have to do a back bend at all. And then we'll make our way again back into downward facing dog pose. And let's bring our right foot forward from here. So however you want to get it there, you know that. Find your lunge again. Draw your shoulders down. Feel your feet equal now in the floor. And then we'll step forward again, coming back into standing forward bend. And go right to, again, where you need to be. So if you need support, use it. You can have your hands on blocks or your elbows above your knees, or you can let yourself hang fully if that's fine for your back. Easy breaths. Soft through your face. And watch those breaths. Just feel the ribs expand when you inhale. Let yourself accept the breaths both in and out. And then we'll bring our hands up to our hips, bend our knees, and rise up to standing. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let your chin come down a little bit. You can look at your hands and feel the hands gently connected there in front of your chest. And then once you bring your gaze forward, coming into mountain pose, just let yourself, whether your eyes are open or closed, imagine you're looking out beyond the wall. Feel your feet equal in the floor. Find that alignment so that you're not tucking your tailbone under you, reaching it down towards between your heels. And once you get the pelvis aligned, it becomes really easy to be in your mountain pose. Feel the head floating up there on top. And then we'll let our arms come on down beside us. Shake out a little bit. Move around if you need to. Good. If you're using your chair, turn it around so you have the back of your chair to face you. And let's have our blocks handy in case we need them right here towards the front of our mat. And we're going to come into Warrior One first. So we're going to come forward to the front of the mat, step our right foot back for Warrior One. Whether you step your foot 2 or 3 or 4 feet apart, your feet can be as long distance apart as you want. But look down at your left foot, and then when you bend your left knee, just make sure you're aligned there, that you're not letting that knee come out beyond your toes, and you can feel that it's lined up, it's stacked over your ankle. And then bring your gaze on forward. And now your shoulders are square, right? This back foot is comfortable in the alignment, whether it's turned a little bit or a little bit more in or out. And now let your right arm come forward. We're going to make a big circle. The arm's going to come forward, up overhead, and we're going to try to reach as far back behind ourselves as we can. It comes back down. We're going to do the left one, same thing. Forward and up and reaching back. Feel your shoulder there and your arm. We're going to do both together. Inhaling the arms up and overhead and back behind us if we can. And then this time, keep going. Let the arms inhale all the way up. You can separate them wider if you want. Turn your pinkies a little towards each other. Let yourself feel that uplift in the front of your body. In your Warrior One here. Feet are equal in the floor. Think about your palms facing each other. You can even turn your pinkies in more towards each other if you want more space between your ears and your shoulders. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to look forward, lower our arms on down, and we're going to turn towards the right side of our mat and let ourselves widen our feet at least a little bit wider than your shoulders. How much is up to you? We're going to come forward, so you know if you like your blocks under your hands, you can grab your blocks as you come into that wide-legged forward bend. Once you get your hands down, sometimes when you start to bend a knee at a time, sometimes you want to adjust your stance a little bit. So if you need to adjust your stance and get either less or more wide, do. And then just move easily. If it bothers your knees, don't do this bending part. And then come on back into center. Let yourself have a nice long back. Whether your hands are on the blocks in front of you or on the floor, your back is lengthened, right? And then bend your knees just a little bit and imagine you're trying to make your mat longer with your feet. You're pressing your feet away from each other. Sometimes that makes your heels want to go a little more towards the short edges of your mat. You can do that if it feels okay. So one more breath. And then set yourself up. You can stop pressing your feet away from each other and get set up to stay in your pose and be with your breath. So if you feel like you want to stack some blocks up to get underneath your forearms or your hands, you can let yourself release all the way to fold forward. If that feels good for you, you can let the hands come back more towards between your feet. Let your head hang. So whichever feels good for you, set yourself up that way and then see if you can just breathe. Accepting those breaths. And imagining that your inhales and your exhales are equally important. So it's not like you just focus on your inhale and the exhale is nothing, in other words. So they're both pretty even and long and deep. Good. One more nice full deep breath. And to rise up, some of you may want to bring your feet a little closer together before you come up, and you might want to use your thighs to help you too. So be mindful, and if you're dizzy, stay for a second before you bring your feet together. And then once you do, just be mindful. Move through your feet and your ankles a little bit, especially if you're feeling kind of stiff. It is Monday. In the weekend, it feels like Monday. So we'll come to the other side. So again, you're stepping towards the front edge of your mat. This time the left foot steps back. So again, it's not important how far apart your feet are the long way. And you can have a little width between your feet, like narrow railroad tracks. That gives you a broader base of support if you feel better that way. And then check out that right knee. Just make sure when you look down, you can see your toes, you can see the knee over the center of the foot. Let yourself then bring your gaze forward and feel that openness across your chest here now, right? It feels really good. We're gonna circle those arms. Remember, left arm's gonna come first. It's gonna come forward and up, and it's gonna reach back. See if you can just feel that shoulder here in your arm. And then the right arm's gonna do the same thing. Inhaling up, exhaling as it comes back down the back. Both arms together. Inhaling, rising up. Exhaling as they reach back. This time as we keep going and we inhale the arms up, let the pinkies turn towards each other. Bring your gaze forward and up a little bit if you can. Let yourself enjoy coming into that warrior one. Feeling balance between your feet all the way up through your legs into your hips. One more breath. And then we'll release our arms on down. We're going to turn towards the left long side of our mat this time. And then again, grab your blocks if you need them, if you didn't have them around there, and then take your time. This time, go ahead and adjust how wide your feet are, where you feel good. And then let your hands walk a little bit, or your blocks a little bit to the right. It doesn't matter which side, actually. We'll go both ways. Once you get there, just stay for a breath. And then we'll walk back through center. And again, we'll go to the other side. Again, once you get as far as you want to go, just stay there. Let yourself release. Feel what's happening when your backs of your legs, your inner thighs, your outer legs. Good, and then we'll come back into center again. And now, bend both your knees equally. See if you can let your elbows just rest above your knees and reach back through your tailbone so you have a nice long back here. It is a form of a squat. And then take your time. You're more than welcome, to stack your blocks up, to use support underneath your forearms. Some of you may decide you want to hold your ankles and let the top of the head release towards the ground. That's just not for everybody's back. You go where you need. You can put hands between your feet if you want. Watch your breaths again now. See if you can just receive your breaths again, fully and deeply in and out. Relax all around your eyes and your mouth. Now think of coming up. You can bring your feet closer together if you need to before you come up. Be easy. Bring those feet together however you need to. Walk around, kind of shake out a little bit with everything. And this time we're going to come into Warrior 2. So again, those of you who don't have a chair, make sure you have your blocks in case you want them forward. And we'll step our right foot back. We're going to line our heels up and bend into that left knee here. So, you can keep your hand on your chair if you need to. Let yourself, again, be mindful of lining up that front knee. As you look, you can see your toes. You can see you're not heading that knee in towards the big toe too much or out towards the little toe too much, right? There's this happy middle place. And then let's reach out through our arms. Turn your palms up. Let your elbows soften down for a second. Feel how your shoulders just naturally want to release down here. Keep your gaze on your left hand there if you can. And then start to rotate the hands back to face palms down and reach out into long arms. Reaching out through both sets of fingertips. Let yourself enjoy feeling the softness still at the tops of your shoulders. Good. Feet equal in the floor. We're going to bring the right hand down. We're going to straighten our left leg out and bring our left hand down for triangle pose. You can put your left hand on your chair. You can go down lower to your forearm on your chair. Same thing for putting the hand on the thigh, or you can go down to your block. So you're extending your torso out over that front leg. Think of rotating to look towards the long side of your mat there with your right shoulder coming up. And then you can add the top arm straight up if you choose to, or you can keep the hand down on your hip. So you're really working your legs here. Thighs are lifting up towards your hips. your shoulder bothers you, just keep your hand down on your hip. One more breath. And then we're going to bend our left knee and come on back into Warrior Two, pressing those feet away from each other. And now let your hands come down. We're going to find a lunge here. So some of you may want to turn to put your hands on your blocks. Some of you may want to turn to put your hands on the chair. Find your lunge where you're reaching back through that right inner heel. And we'll add a twist, left hand to the left hip, rolling that left shoulder up. And your hand can stay on your low back, on your hip if that's even better for your shoulder. Some of you might want to stretch your arm up. If you like to reach your arm up, you can. Really be mindful. Again, don't push it. And then bring your left hand on back down to lunge. We're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us. See if you can walk your standing forward bend a little bit. So bend one knee at a time. You can lift the heel up if you want, of the knee that's bent. Or you can keep the heel down. Either one of those. They're really nice stretches, really nice releases. And then come on back to be equal between your feet. Let your knees bend. Bring your hands to your hips and rise straight on up. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, we'll let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So find your mountain pose here, really nice and easily. Feel as balanced as you can, both between your right and your left sides. So imagine actually that you're going to draw a line right down the middle of your body, right? And you're finding this sense of being very symmetrical, even though none of us are symmetrical, right? But imagine that you are, from right to left. If you drew that line down the body and you thought about being just exactly equal on the sides of your body. Kind of a neat feeling. And then release your arms on down beside you. Shake out just a little bit. And we're going to go to the other side. So we're going to come into left foot back and to Warrior Two. So again, how far apart your feet are, it does not matter. Right? They can be 2 feet apart, 3, 4 feet apart. The longer you take your stance in this, and the more you can bend your knees, so safely not going out beyond your toes. So if you're like, well, I want to bend that knee a little deeper, then you just need to go longer, right? In your Warrior Two, longer between your feet. And then go ahead and let your arms float up, turn your palms up, let yourself look at your right palm there, your elbows are melted down. So find this sense of really releasing in the tops of your shoulders. And then as you start to rotate the hands down and reach out through the fingertips, now you're looking out over the top of your right hand. And you can really let those shoulders still soften down away from your ears. Good. And we'll bring our left hand right down to our left hip. We're going to straighten the right knee out. Bring the right hand down. Again, it does not need to be low. You can put your hand right here above your knee and be happy, right? You can let yourself fold a little more out over the leg with a nice long torso. You can use your hand on your chair, on your thigh, on your chair seat, or down to a block. Left shoulder draws up as you look towards the long edge of your mat. And if you want to add the left arm straight on up, you can. Totally, again, not necessary to do that. Keeping the hand down on your hip is fine. Again, feel your thighs lifting up towards your hips. Nice. We're going to bend the right knee. We're going to come on back to Warrior Two. So that's a really big core work right there, getting back into that warrior pose. And then we'll let our hands come down. We're going to find the lunge. So again, you may want to put your hands down on a chair. You may want to go all the way down to blocks. I mean, some of you might want to go to 4. More power to you. And then to add that twist, right hand will come to the right hip, and you can roll your shoulder up and put the hand palm down if you like. If your shoulder bothers you, just let the shoulder kind of stay down, just turn your head, right? If you can actually add that twist in the middle of the back when you put your hand up or bring your arm up, that's really up to you. One more breath. And then we'll bring the right hand back down. We're going to step forward to get our feet right under us. And again, we're going to bend our knees, press into our feet, and come up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts, finding your mountain pose again. So if you need to shift around a little bit, do it. Actually, once you kind of get established, bend your knees a little bit, and imagine you're pressing the floor. equally away from you with your feet. So it's like you're pushing the floor away, and then you're going to lift up a little with your thighs. So you don't want to lock your knees, but your knees get straighter, and your knees straighten a little bit. You just don't press back into your knees. And then you can feel that engagement in the legs, but it's like you're floating in the upper half of your body. And it's really like your head is floating in the clouds. One more breath. And then go ahead and let your arms unfold on down beside you. Shake out a little bit and move around if you need to. And now we're going to come down with our hands either to the seat of the chair, so you turn your chair to the seat to face you, or your hands can go down to your blocks the highest height. But you want your hands comfortable. If you need to be on your fists, be on your fists, right? If you feel good to go flat onto the palms of your hands, do. It really is going to depend on you for Warrior 3, what feels good. And then let your feet come a little closer together. Now, how close will be up to you. Bend your knees a little bit now. And then once you lift that right foot, you can tell if you're standing the right place with your left foot to take all your weight on your left leg, right? And then once you kind of feel, okay, you can put the right foot back down and readjust if you want. Once you feel comfortable where you are, go ahead and stretch that right leg behind you. Toes face down. It can be low. Warrior 3 does not mean you have to lift your leg up parallel to the floor. Your pinky toe is facing down, and man, oh man, you can really feel that left leg, right? I mean, it is intense. Bend both your knees for a second. Maybe that helps a little bit. And then reach back into that long left leg again if you can. Now, if you want your left hand to come up, you can put it on your thigh. You can put your hand up to your chest if you want. You can reach the left arm forward, or you can keep holding on with your hand down, right? So strengthening through that supporting leg, obviously huge in the hamstring. One more breath. And we're going to lower that right foot down before you even think about it. Bend both knees and lift your left foot up because it's already a relief. And again, you know, if you're not in the right place for that right supporting leg, sometimes called a post leg, then, you know, switch it around a little bit. And then when you're ready, stretch into that long left leg, and the right leg is trying to lengthen out as best you can. And the toes are facing down. Again, you can decide if bringing the right hand up anywhere feels good. You can put the right hand on your right thigh, or you can bring it up to your chest. Just let yourself touch hand to your chest there, or you can reach the arm forward. If you have a chair, it's perfect because you can hold on to the back of your chair. It feels awesome. One more breath. And then we're going to bring our foot down and our hand down if it was up. Get your feet right underneath you. And we're going to bend our knees, press into our feet, and come on up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, come into mountain pose now. Again, it is like your head is floating. And sometimes if you shift your weight just a little bit forward and then back again, and you feel that sense of being really equal between the fronts and the backs of your feet, it's almost like your feet are lifting up off the floor. One more breath. And then let yourself release on down, shake out a little bit. And we're going to keep our mats right where they are and come right down onto our bellies where you are. So if you have a chair, just move it off to the side and let yourself come on down. Make a little pillow with your hands and rest your forehead. Let yourself release to bend your knees when you're ready. And you can circle your feet around so your ankles get released. You can, if you want, come side to side with the lower legs. Just be mindful. If you like to kind of do those little X's with your legs, you can separate your feet and cross at your ankles and separate them and cross the other way if that feels good. Good. And then come on back to long legs, and let's come to the tops of our feet. So really feel like you're pointing your feet for a second. Really let yourself press into your toenails almost, right? So you're engaged a little bit there. And then barely lift your feet up, curl your toes under, and see if you can lift your knees up so that now you're stretching out the bottoms of your feet. So your toes are on the floor, and you're pressing into your heels, and your knees are lifting up, and probably your thighs too. And then let yourself bend the knees again, put the feet back down to pointing, and let's come onto our forearms with our elbows underneath our shoulders. And at first, let your palms turn to face each other, right? So it's almost like you feel like a robot. You've got your elbows under your shoulders, if possible. If this bothers your back, go lower, slide your elbows down more towards your waist. That probably would feel better for your shoulders and for the back bend part. So just be mindful. Let yourself bring your gaze between your hands there, so you're not tensing up your neck at all or your throat. And just breathe. One more breath. And then rotate your palms to face up. Now let your hands relax, so don't try to stress your hands. Usually that means your fingers curl in a little bit, right, when you relax your hands. So just release here. One more breath. And then we're going to turn the palms down towards the ground, coming into our Sphinx, typical arms in your Sphinx pose. And then just bring your hands together, interlace your fingers, clasp your hands, send your pinky finger out and bend your knees and lift up into that half forearm plank. And then just pull yourself towards the front of your mat. Feel your belly engaging. You're on the flesh above your knees, so you're not right on your kneecaps, right? And if you want a full plank, go for it. Put your toes down, lift your knees up, come into that full forearm plank if you choose to. And be mindful, just take your time. Let yourself enjoy finding the core strength there. One more breath. And we're going to come all the way down, head all the way down to the floor. Release your arms down alongside you. Turn your palms down. And on your next inhale, float anything you can up off the floor. That's kind of limited, right? But if you can get your hands and your chest and your legs, your feet, you know, sometimes legs don't want to cooperate too much to come up, but reach into pointing your toes. Sometimes that helps. Into your locust pose. So it is your back body really working here. One more breath. And then bend your elbows, bring your hands underneath to make a pillow again, and put your forehead on your hands, and your legs are down now. And now just draw your right knee towards the outside of your mat a little bit. It's on the floor. Your knee is on the floor, and your right knee is bent quite deeply. Keep your head down and let yourself just let the breath now release your hips a little bit. So your foot's on the floor too. The knee is just kind of slid off to the outside edge of your mat. Breathe into your low back. Let it feel good. Let your hips release as best you can there. Now, if you want to float your head up a little bit, you can. Some of you might even want to come back to your forearms like you're doing a Sphinx pose again, almost, right? That is totally optional. This is kind of a half frog pose, really. And one more breath. And now we're going to come back. If we're up with our head down, bring our knee back in, and we're just going to slide the left one on out towards the side. And again, at first, just keep your head down and breathe. Breathe into your low back. Let your hips find as much release as you can. Good. And now again, if you want to lift your head up a little bit, you can. That is totally optional. Just a little off your hands. Or come up a little higher if you want. If you want to try to let your elbows support you a little bit, you can come up if you want and be up a little bit higher. Good. So one more breath. And then everything's going to come back. The leg will come back underneath you again. And let's come back again, either into that half forearm plank or a full forearm plank. Or some of you might want to bring your knees up and come up into a dolphin pose. So if anybody wants to do a dolphin, just remember your head is off the floor. You're pressing into your forearms, feel your elbows hugging towards each other, and you're letting your head really hang. There's absolutely no weight in your head. Your head's not even on the floor. And if you're in your forearm, half plank or full plank, stay how long you can. Good. We're going to release on down, and we're going to come back towards child's pose from here. So everybody's different in their child's pose. You may decide you want your big toes to touch, your knees to go pretty far apart, and you might want to shift your hips back just a little bit, but stay on your forearms more. Or you might want to go back with your hips. You know, your knees will tell you when to stop, right? So stop when your knees say stop, and let yourself release into your low back and your hips the way you can. And some of you might even want to bring your arms back alongside your legs. You can turn your palms up, let yourself relax there. Breathing into your low back, or you can keep your arms soft overhead. Either one, whatever feels good. Good. One more breath. And we're going to bring our hands wherever we need to help us up, and we're going to come on around to sitting. But once we get there, we're just going to let our feet be on the floor and bend our knees, hold on behind our thighs, and just lean back a little bit. Just lean back a little bit. So don't even think about lifting your feet off the floor into a boat pose, right? So you can really feel the core body engaging right here. You don't have to lift your feet up. And in fact, sometimes what that does is make you tense up in your hip flexors. Sometimes this is fun. Another thing that can be fun is coming down onto your forearms back here behind you. Not everybody will want to do this. And letting your chest come a little forward and lifting your feet up like that, right? Now that is really having to use your belly. And if you're like, your shoulders are going, there is no way I'm doing that. Don't do it, right? Good. One more breath. We're going to put our feet back onto the floor, and we're so close, it's so easy. We're just going to go all the way down onto our backs on the floor. And we're going to bring our right knee in towards our chest and extend our left leg down long on the floor. Flex through both your feet. Let it feel really good to find that natural curve in your low back. So don't exaggerate it, but also, don't collapse that low back into the floor. When you press your right leg into your hands, you've got a little bit of curve there, your natural curve. And then bring your left leg in, stretch your right leg down long again on the floor. And again, you can hold behind your thigh, remember, you can hold your shin, whatever works. You can kind of press the leg into your hands a little bit. So take your time, let it feel really good. Good, and then bring both knees in and stretch your legs up in the air for a second and go back and forth with your feet just a little bit, letting yourself, with the legs either bent or straight, just back and forth a little bit to feel that movement in your hips. You can even do a little bicycle if you want. You can do a little bicycle movement up there. You can back pedal too if you're doing a bike. Let it feel releasing, in other words. And then we'll finish. We're going to put our feet back onto the floor. And even if you don't normally come into a supported bridge, see if you can grab a block and let yourself lift up to be on the lowest height of the block. And if you're like, no, I don't do that, then don't do it, right? If it's too high, don't do it. If you'd rather get a blanket, you can lay with a blanket. Now you want it right underneath that sacrum, that flat part at the base of your spine, right? You don't want to be hanging off the block, exaggerating with your hips hanging and your low back coming into this huge curve, right? You want to really be supported. And then from there, bring your right knee in and stretch the right leg up, kind of like we were doing before. Let the leg come up in the air. And then see if you can do the same thing with the left foot coming up. So you've got both feet on up in the air there. Knees can be bent, it's fine. Think about sanding your sitting bones down a little bit. So you're not collapsing, like if you're on the floor, you don't want to collapse into your low back. You still have that little bit of a curve. That right there is pretty good work. It's nice and letting the blood kind of come down out of your legs. If you want to do a little bit of ab work, you can let one leg at a time come down so the foot comes towards the floor, and then bring it back up when you're ready. So you can exhale when the leg comes down. Keep your pelvis really just the way it is so that you're not popping the low back up and down. And this really is easier to do than if you're flat on the floor, but it really makes you very mindful of your pelvis. So let yourself, don't have to do these obviously. You can just let your feet come back to the floor. You don't have to do these at all. Some of you actually might like to let one foot come all the way to the floor with the leg long and stay there just for a breath or two. Because what that does is open the front of your hip. So if one leg comes all the way down to the floor and it's long, right? You can just open through the front of that long leg hip or the foot that's on the floor. Again, this is totally optional. So when you're ready to finish off, by all means, you just put your feet back on the floor. And some of you I know will want to lift off that block and come into a bridge pose. And you're more than welcome to do that. You can take the block out if you want. You can stay on the block if you want to. If you want to stay in supported bridge, by all means do. Remember, you want to feel your feet. If you're doing a bridge pose, feel your feet relaxed into the floor. If you're still on your block, you can play however you want. You can have your leg or legs long on the floor. You can have your feet in the air. Good. So when you get ready to come down, remember, if you're on that block, really be mindful when you take it out and let yourself release down the floor. Once you get on the floor now, you're going to cross your right thigh over your left. So it's like woman cross-legged in a chair, right? If you can. If you need to do man cross-legged, I hate to sound sexist, but if you want to do a figure 4, do. If you want to do thigh over thigh, we're going to bring the knees in towards us. So this is up to you. If you're in the figure 4 and you need to leave your left foot on the floor, do. Now, some of you may even want to use your hands to pull the knees in towards you if you have your thigh over your thigh. You can keep your foot on the floor. You don't have to. Let's bring the left thigh on top or cross that into that figure 4 if you'd rather. And then again, it's optional. You can stay right here. Hip release right there. If you want more, you draw the knees in and flex through both your feet and kind of let yourself use your hands if you want to draw the knees in more towards you, or hold on behind your thigh. You can hold behind your thighs too, either one. And then bring your foot back down, and we're going to uncross. Bring your feet wider on your mat towards the outside edges. And bring your arms out beside you into, pretty much out from your shoulders. Lower a little bit if you want. And then let your knees come from one side to the other. So take your time as you let your knees come from one side to the other. Just be mindful of letting the hips release, the low back release. If you would rather come into another kind of a twist, now's your time to do it. Now's your chance, right?